beginning to.
I'll just record it, Anne, so I can give it back to you afterwards. Okay.
Sure. I'm beginning to get my business up and running at the moment. Well, I'm looking to start a business. I registered a limited company last year, but with the CRO, but I didn't register it for tax or anything because I wasn't trading at that time. So it looks like in the next 6 to 8 weeks, well, so 2 to 3 months over the summer, I hope to have it up and running and go out to the market and see what's there and maybe start generating some business. And that, but in the interim, there is a lot of expenses that have to spend a lot of money at the moment getting the site prepared. And it's going to be quite expensive, with VAT, etc. So I suppose there's a couple of things I have to ask you. Is one, about registering for tax now that I hopefully will be getting the business up and running. Two, about registering for VAT. This is some area I have no clue about, Kevin. So I'm just looking for advice on all that kind of area with regard to businesses.
Okay, so I'll just ask you a bit extra on top of that. What type of business is it then?
Yeah, basically I am hoping to do storage units for businesses.
Oh, yeah, okay.
A lot of businesses. What I have at the moment is there's an old mushroom farm that I acquired. All right, and there had 36 growing rooms. So I'm clearing all of those, and there was one very, very large warehouse. So on that, I'm going to be repairing the warehouse, hopefully getting that, renting it out for businesses for use. A lot of businesses need long-term, cost-effective storage, especially in the medical device industry, where they have to keep all their machines. They can't actually destroy them for legal reasons. They have to keep all that equipment, but it costs them a fortune normally. All right, so this would be kind of long-term storage. If it was viable, maybe other storage for private citizens as well. We'll see. And then looking to use the usual for, insulated shipping containers, 40 foot, 30 foot, 20 foot, some with rolling doors, some with kind of standard doors, if the business progresses. All right, so we start off to see is there a market there. It's quite a large site, and it's something that will actually could generate a nice bit of cash if the business was there. I don't know yet. I'm going to have to explore it, Kevin.
All right, good stuff.
But I do expect to have, from what I've been talking to, from my contacts in the industry. I work in HR, so I have quite a few contacts across various businesses, and I used to work in various medical device companies and so forth. I would expect, some nibbles at least.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'd say it's a great business. I've had a few friends who looked into it in America, Irish guys, Mayo guys.
Right.
And, it's I always thought it'd be the best business ever. None of them ever went ahead over there. But I think the only thing that really went against them was American property taxes.
Yeah.
That's what seemed to kill them. Whereas here we don't have the same level. But I mean, in theory, I really liked the sound of that business,
Well, yeah, I was looking at, actually, would you believe the first business I was looking at was a touring caravan park for the site?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, but planners wouldn't allow it.
Okay, yeah, well, that's that then, yeah.
Well, I mean, I could push it because the actual restriction they put on it, Kevin, was ridiculous. There is a private wastewater system for over 200 people on the site. It was, put in at the time, and at the pre-planning, the planner turned around and says, well, that has to be managed by Irish Water. Irish Water does not manage that wastewater treatments. They don't manage treatments facilities to manage water.
Okay, yeah.
No, I could have really pushed it, but then it kind of just made me think. And I said, okay, let's see, there's a storage business, because the warehouse it's slightly damaged at the moment, so it wouldn't cost a huge amount to repair it. And it's a fine warehouse with 2 loading bays.
Okay.
Fully insulated. I just have to get the door repaired because it has been a derelict site for a number of years. Now that's just part of the site. The other thing that I'll be doing while I'm investigating is it's a 63-acre site. So on the rest of the land, I'm seeing, is it viable for forestry? So I'm getting it tested, and if it is, I'll either sell it to Quilcha, or else I will pop it under forestry, get one of the forestry companies to manage it, and get the annual grants.
Okay, very good.
Potentially, like, I mean, there's lots of potential with it. It's my hobby at the moment. All right, I work full time outside of this, but it's something that I just want to develop longer term so I can get out of the corporate world full time.
Okay, very good.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm just looking up your name there. So it's Robin Hill Ventures, is that it?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
I was looking up the public records, so I knew the company. What's your, I know you're asking about VAT and tax, so I just want to check where you're at. What's your understanding of VAT? Do you understand VAT? Or do you want me to run through that with you and I'll give you...
My understanding VAT is that if you're VAT registered, if you have services and you provide services, you'll be able to claim the VAT back. All right, and you'll be able to charge VAT, you know, on your services as well. That's as basic as it is. Be honest, I work in HR, and when it comes to pensions and tax, I hand everything over to payroll because it just, I don't get involved in that area of things. I stick to the more side of things. But other than that, Mary would have a much better idea. But no, I haven't got a clue. So take me through from the beginning. Both for first of all, do I need to register for tax once I start up with the business? You know, I've
do,
registered the business, but I haven't actually registered for tax yet because it wasn't trading. It was just there.
Yeah, well, you've actually put your finger on it there. So the thing is, they won't allow a lot of expenses as tax deductible unless you say I've started trading. So if we do a rake of work or spend a rake of money, they could in theory not give us back the VAT and not allow it to be a minus on your profit and loss, because I'll give you you'll really get this one, right? So say we say we've started trading, okay, and we've no sales, okay, and we spend 100,000 repairing around the place. Here you've lost 100,000. Say, well, Jesus, you know, but the place looks better. Now the way tax law works is until you make a profit of 100,000, okay, so the next 100,000 profit, you'll pay zero tax on that because they'll allow you recoup your losses. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you haven't said I'm trading, they'll say, well, you did all that work before you started trading, so we're not allowing you recoup your losses. So forget about that. Tough luck. So the first 100,000 gets taxed. And I'm always really careful about that, even since I started. So what I would do, number one is we'd register you for tax, and there's a question there: when did you start trading? So we could even go back a little bit to the January 1st or whenever your company was formed, and say then. So even what you've paid me then, you know, becomes tax deductible. All right.
Okay.
So money out, money out, money out. So your first year's accounts will probably be all money out. But to reinforce it, okay, in case they say, well, we don't think you began trading at all. We think you only, because you get these tax people and they always look at the claw money back. So what I would do, and as well, just to reinforce it, is I would say someone left their caravan with you for a weekend while they went to America for safekeeping, and they paid you 50 quid. Okay. And I would put through a sale of 50 quid, even if it was just your sister left her car there while she was getting the house cleared out or something.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. I get that.
But then you've now done a sale. Okay. And once you do that, it's ironclad. Okay. And that's.
What happens if I sell some equipment? Is that trading or not?
It kind of is, depends. If you're just getting rid of it and not,
Yeah.
it never leads to a sale, they could claw it back. But this only ever comes up a couple of years ahead.
Okay.
You've made money and maybe they don't like the low amount of tax they got at the start. All right. They say, Jesus, hang on now. We're not getting that much out of this. And they'll have a look at what's around, and it's all that. Okay. So the sooner you say I started trading, the more that problem goes away. Where the problem is we do a rake of work and we send in a big VAT claim, and they come out and say, you've done all this work, but you never even told us you'd started trading, so we're not going to give you back the VAT. I'm really sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
So those are the tripwires. Okay. So.
Okay, great. Because there's a couple of things, Kevin, that I want to get straight. One is I will be spending about approximately €80,000 to clean and prepare the site.
Okay.
Okay, but the site is actually in my name. It's not in the company name.
Right. Okay.
So how does that work? In the sense that the trading company will be, you know, the business will be Robin Hill Ventures. The site needs to be prepared to get it up and running. I want to put it through the business, you know, any expenses. Yeah. So how does that work?
And you paid what for 80,000 as well for the site that you said?
No. I bought the site separately. I spent 170.
170. Okay. You think Yeah, I'm just thinking about the knock-ons there. So, and your long-term plan is leave the corporate world and run that. So,
Run that, and if it were, if look at, I have lots and lots of different ideas that I want to do. One is I want to have an independent income source. I don't want to be dependent on the PAYE check. All right, every month. I don't want to be dealing with, I always say dusty tea bags, because that was one complaint we actually got years ago into HR. The tea bags in the canteen were too dusty. I don't want to be dealing with dusty tea bags for the next 15 years. Let's be honest, it's not quite my cup of tea. And then if the business ever did make money, I'd expand into other areas.
okay, well, the ideal thing would be is, I mean, you own the company anyway, is to transfer the site, or the site we're going to turn into the storage, because I know you have a few other plans around there.
Yeah.
Into the company. Okay, so
when you say transfer it,
well, I think the solicitor would do what's called a deed of indemnity, and it will move from your name to theirs, right? So that's the easy bit. Okay. The second thing is, this is where I need to kind of watch it a little bit, because I'm thinking down the road, it's like if you end up borrowing money.
Well, I'm doing it actually at the moment, money, loan free. Loan free at the moment. That's where, and that's where that would be my ideal scenario. Kind of keep it loan free. Now, it may not be possible. Now, I'll tell you what. When I was buying that site, I was going to put it into the company name, and I was advised not to, because if I was ever selling it, it would be impossible to get the money out of the business.
It's not impossible, right? There's a few things there. Really is. If it's a company, it's easy to bring in partners and things like this, okay, and sell bits of it, because you're dealing with shares, and there's loads of corporate law there as to voting rights and who can do what. So let's just say you build a great storage business there, and someone comes in and say, we'd like to buy that off you, and you say, no, I want to keep an interest, and you keep 10%, they buy 90% for 2 million or something like that. Very easy to divide that up with shares. There's no partnership agreements or rows, and I did this, you did that. The company works really well. Okay. The second thing is the money in the company. Okay. So you're in the company. I'm making up these numbers, right? It's bringing in 200,000 a year. Very little costs. We say 50,000. You have 150,000 left over every year. A company can put an unlimited amount into your pension if they want. Okay. Whereas when you're a sole trader, like you are effectively now, you're out here, companies over there, you're limited by your age and by the percentage of your income you can put into a pension. That's the first. And so those are two major differences. The third thing is, and I'll give you an end game here, right? The end game is, let's just jump ahead 20 years, 30 years from now, and you turn around to Mary, your sister there, and said, fed up of you and all you bookkeepers and accountants and lawyers, and I've got this great offer. Okay, I'm going to sell it and disappear. This happens. I have people walk into me like this that I've fed up with you, and all the paperwork. So you get a great offer and you take it, right? Well, let's pretend it's a bit ahead, of course. Let's pretend there's a few million, and you say great, and then your lawyer says to you, or the accountant at the time was, well, that's not your money, really, Mary or Anne. It's the company's, because they own everything. They've sold everything, okay, and that money is in their bank account. So you're looking over there at it, okay. There's two things that can happen then in particular. One is you can just keep living your life and keep wearing down the money in the form of salary, pay your PAYE tax, right? Or, which is really popular, not as popular now because of the tax rate, right? But let's go back to Celtic Tiger times, when capital gains tax was 20%. What you can do is what's called voluntarily dissolve the company.
Okay.
Okay, a voluntary dissolution. So if you've got 3 million there, okay, everything is gone, you're staring at the money and you just want to hit the road, okay? The old scene used to be you give 20% of that money to the taxman.
Yes.
With 3 million, it'd be 600,000, and you walk away with the rest. No other. 2.4. You put that. It's 33% tax at the moment. They put it up when everything crashed, going after developers and that. So you'd have to give 1 million to the taxman and walk away with 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, it depends what your attitude is to tax, but it's a huge discount on income tax, definitely.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Either way, okay? But that is an end game. Now, the person who told you the money is trapped in the company, you can't get it out, what they're thinking of is the company sells that site for 3 million and might have to pay some capital gains tax. All right, might have to pay on, depends what is put into it. Okay, so a bit of tax goes, but you still got your 3 million. You know, the change is there, and then you say, well, I want it now, and they give it to you. You're hit with huge PAYE PRSI. You know, that's if you take it out in the form of salary, which there's no other way. You know, but no, I'm not that clued up on termination payments, all this type of thing. But certainly you would in the human resources. But you know the way you can write contracts to say if you're terminated, you get a payoff. You know, like that facility is still there as well. And that's the third one. And the fourth one, and I availed of this lately, is called entrepreneur relief. So if you set up a business and okay, so you just like you are now, like the shares are worth nothing really. You know, you bought it. You know, there's nothing in the company at the moment, doesn't even have the land. Okay. So that's 33% I told you about. If you qualify for entrepreneur relief, where you literally went into a business that had loads of risk and it might have failed and you've run it for 5 years and you put a minimum, I think it's 20 hours a week into running it, the capital gains tax rate drops to 10%, not 33%. As long as you sell it kind of with, I think it's within the first 10 years. You run it for 5 and sell it within 10. I think that's the rate on that. And I claimed that for a guy lately. They're kind of moving the relief around, but what they want is they want business people to take risks on business. But one guy lately, now he's an older man, and he ran a water testing company with a few other lads for years, and they were making no money for years. You know, they were kind of working in PYE, but they were running it anyway and testing water, and no one was interested in them. And then there was this water problem in Galway with lead pipes, and all of a sudden, this all of Ireland and all of Europe had to be tested for this problem that no one was testing for, and they were always testing water as kind of nerdy guys, you know. And the nerdy guys sold the business for 12 or 13 million. No, I didn't even know them. And I was living around here, and he came in here and he just about got his 10% capital gains tax bill, because you have to have, I think it was 15% of the company. He was 14.444. But I managed to go back in the history of the company and recheck rights issues among them and all that. And anyway, he got his 10%, just about the skin of his teeth. But they weren't even aware of that 10% thing at the time until they solved the big money. And one guy says to another, make sure you get the 10% rate. And he realized he was just under it. He thought it was on the sales. But anyway, we got it from the end properly. But it's a very realistic tax rate that's there. So now I'm not looking at the relief right now, but I know you have to run it for 5. And now those lads owned it for more than 10 years, but they've drawn in the relief because they don't want old business people running businesses. They want them selling, you know, they want them to set things up, get it going, sell to another guy, and he continues it, you know. Not a case that you got to Michael O'Leary, who was there for 40 years and the business might die with them, you know, that they want these guys to release it. So there is loads of ways to get the money out of the company, you know, and there's loads of ways to take it out badly. But I wouldn't agree it's trapped in there, not anymore, no. So
okay, and then if I'm saying I just wanted to keep it in my name, can I lease the property even for a minimal amount to the company?
Yeah, you can. There's two. I'm always thinking of the tripwire down the road. You can lease, right? So the way your balance sheet would look, okay, so the limited company balance sheet, it would be putting money into this land that it has a rental agreement on, okay. So whatever you do from here on, we'll say, would be on there. And I think anything the company does, because you own the land, you'll always end up having to guarantee it. Now that's not unusual anyway, it's kind of usual. All directors these days have to kind of say, well, if the company can't pay it, I'll pay it. That's what goes on since the big financial crash, you know. There's very
you mean if I took on loans that I would be personally I would be liable for the loans?
Yeah, and that's whether the company owns the land or not, that you'd probably have to do that anyway, okay?
Right.
The banks want to cover themselves all the time, you know, that's the thing. But people like me would kind of find shield you away from, you know, having your personal assets exposed all the time, unless it's something pretty straightforward, like, you know, like you're just buying a few acres up the road or it's a short-term lease or something. But that's all the way now. Every director of a company, the bank will always say, sign here, here, and here. And somewhere in those signs are, if the company can't pay this, I guarantee the loan. The directors do that, you know. But
Yeah.
come back to your point of, could you rent it for a small amount? Let's just say you rent it for €1, okay?
Yeah.
And you say, oh, that's grand. There's no tax really on that. What will come up after that is, what should you be renting it for? And if you should have been renting it for 20,000 a year, the tax man will, what's called benefit in kind, he'll say, well, really, if you were renting it for 20,000 a year, I would be getting 10,000 worth of tax out of it, off you. And I still want the 10,000 worth of tax off you, and okay, because you're gifting a cheap rent to that company. That's what that's what they do. So you need to want to rent it for the right amount, you know. And
Yeah, I don't mind that, you know, and you know, kind of, you could start off. Well, at the moment, it's not the rent would be absolutely nothing because there's no electricity hooked up, there's no water. So you could start off with a low rent for the first year and then increase it depending as you know as it goes up. Could you do it that way?
you could. Now I'm just thinking of your end game, okay? I'm thinking of the end game here.
Well, I don't know what the end game is going to be, Kevin, because I have to say, I suppose I'm one of these people. There's a couple of things that I have in my head, and you'll probably say they may be right or wrong, which is why I'm chatting to you. One is one of the big things that I really don't like. I love being free of debt, even as a business. I don't like loans. I have no mortgage now. I just don't want it. The money that I've spent on the land, I had. The money I'm spending on the cleanup, I have. I'm going to start off small, renting a warehouse, maybe buying 1 or 2 containers, see as the business out there, and just keep pumping the money back into the business. This is my goal. You probably said, well, that probably is not viable, and it may not be. I have no issue revising plans as I go along. The end game then is to build it up enough to generate enough cash to diversify into other areas. All right, so that there is a passive income coming in at all stages, because I don't want to be working, 5 days a week, or 7 days a week, whatever it may be in the next few years. I prefer to have much more of a passive income with minimal amount, because it's just, I'm sick of, I'm tired of work. I'll be honest with you. And I don't mind working for myself and doing all that kind of stuff, but it is one of those things. But yeah, and then if the business was doing really well, and if I generated enough in other areas to have a passive income, I'd sell it on. Yeah, absolutely, get rid of it, because the location, it's a bit out of the way. It's down in Belmullet.
Okay, very good.
And I will like, I mean, if I could sell some of the land to Quilcha and generate, get the money back that I've spent on it, I would happily do that. And keep the site where the growing rooms and the buildings are for the storage area.
Okay. What age are you, Andrew? Let me ask you.
I'm 53.
53. Okay. I'm just going to show you something now. Now the more I'm listening to you, the more I'm edging towards put some of the land into the company. Right?
Okay. All right.
Okay. And I'm just going to show you a couple of things. So these are just shortcutty things. I'm just writing down a few notes for myself, and I'll follow up with an email. It'll be over the weekend. Okay. So now, of course, you're dealing with a lot of acreage there. So it wouldn't all have to go in, okay?
Well, no, I'd only, if I was doing that, I'd only put what I would call the mushroom tunnel site in.
Yeah.
Where basically everything that's what you can use for the business, which would be about 10 acres into it.
Okay. So that is it's still here. So, bits and pieces on this thing. Find what I'm looking for. Oh, there it is.
If I do that, then the money that I've already spent on the land, can I get that out at another time? How does that work?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, so the company could owe it to you, basically.
Okay.
So yeah, so you've 63 acres and you spend 170,000 on them. So I'll just go with 170,000.
Yeah, I'll be spending another 80,000 on the cleanup.
Okay. 63.
And then to do up the warehouse, you're talking about another 10,000, and maybe another 20,000 put up fencing and CCTV camera.
Okay. So I'm going to check here on average per acre. What's that? 3,000 an acre. So if 10 acres went in, so that's one. Okay, I know these will work out in a second. I know this is just me making up because it's probably good acres and bad acres.
Well, the site acreage is much more valuable than just the surrounding land. The surrounding land is just agricultural land. The acreage where you have the three-phase power, you have all the water supply and so forth, is where the value is.
Okay.
And the buildings.
So if the 10 acres were put into the company
Yeah.
for 30,000, the company doesn't have 30,000 to give you. It should be effectively owed to you, tax-free. Now, it mightn't be worth, those 10 mightn't be worth 30,000, but as long as, let me put it this way, as long as the 10 we put in there are worth below or at least the same as what you paid for them,
Yeah.
there's no capital gains tax. Okay. And what I'm referring to there is if you give me that land, right? Say you give me the land, and let me see now. There's a tax-free amount. So let's just say I was your son, right? And you said, you know, I'm going to give you that land, and I paid 170,000. It's yours. Okay. So how much do I owe you for it? She said nothing. I said great. And a son can get 360,000 off their parent in their lifetime. Okay. So there's no gift tax. So I'm delighted, right? But then there's a tripwire again called capital gains tax. And the taxman says, hang on a second, I know he's your son and all that, but if you had sold that for what it's worth, would I have got some tax out of it? And so let's just say it was worth 200,000, okay? The 170 was worth 200. You would have made if you sold it on the open market, you'd have made a 30,000 profit. The taxman would have got 1/3 of that, which is 10,000, okay? So what the taxman then says, well, because you gave it to your son, okay, there's no gift tax to him. But if he had paid you for it and paid you what it was worth, I would have got 10,000 worth of tax. So I still want that 10,000 worth of tax, and I'm owed that. So.
But okay, so let's expand on that scenario. So you give the money to or you give the land to your son, right?
Yeah.
They then spend a huge amount of money to increase the value.
Yeah. Now,
how does that work?
Well, we go with the first step. I mean, the first step is I'm giving it over. We just make sure that what we give them, we paid more for it in the first place. So there's no profit, because we don't want to walk you into spending money unnecessarily here.
Yeah.
The last thing, what you want out of me is how come this wasn't said? Like the amount of times that people turn to someone else and say, why didn't we know this 5 years ago?
Yeah.
I see with solicitors a lot. They're selling a place. And there's all these problems. So when I bought it, there wasn't half these problems. Now there's all these problems. Why didn't you catch them? And so anyway, it's easy enough to structure. Like, so basically what you transfer into the company, and I'm leading to a point here as well for your egg game, right? Because it sounds a good plan to me, what you have. So if we give 10 acres, as long as, you know, when you bought it, it was worth less than, say, 28,000. Sorry, if you paid if it was worth 28,000 when you bought it, the value today might be 20,000, because the value is selling less the way you're talking there anyway. Is that right, or?
Well, you see, it's a funny old site. As I said, the 63 acres, most of it is what I would call poor agricultural land. All right, it's just about good enough for grazing for sheep. All right, okay. So it's if it's good for forestry land, potentially the acreage, you know, if we get the grants or if we get the permissions to plant forestry, depending on what type of forestry, it'd be between 3,000 and 6,000 an acre. Okay. But the gem is the actual 10 acres where the site was. There was growing rooms on it. Okay. There is a large warehouse, and there's what we call a central admin building where this office is, but that has been vandalized. And the warehouse has been vandalized to a degree, so it's actually a derelict site at this moment in time. We've had to remove all the growing rooms because they were sliced and diced, and that's what's costing us a fortune to get all that removed and all the stuff removed. So, but if the money is pumped into it, that particular concrete structure for the 10 acres that are under concrete, with the 2 shells of buildings, once we spend the the 80,000, which is inclusive of that, to get it cleaned up, it will be quite valuable then. Once we get the electricity turned on, the 3-phase power sorted, the lights up and running, the water back up and running, and it will increase dramatically then in value. So I bought it as a derelict site. So it's okay. Yeah.
So listening to you there, the 10 valuable acres are worth probably about 100,000. Okay.
Yeah,
Off
probably.
that 170 then, and maybe it'll justify that now. Okay.
Mm.
So, because I'm leading to a point here. So let's just say you transfer the 10 acres of the value of the main stuff in now
Yeah,
at
yeah.
the lower value, because you asked me about the increase, right? And so on average is 26, but really the good 10, say 100,000 of that, and the other more agricultural stuff.
Mm.
Now this can be sorted out again with a
Yeah.
solicitor and all that, okay? But just giving you numbers. So that's the first thing. We transfer it now before we've done anything to it. Okay, it's worth 100,000 now. It's not worth any more than what we paid for it.
No.
Okay, so there's going to be no capital gains tax because you're not giving it on the cheap to your own company or anything like that. Okay, so are you with me on that bit?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, then you go and spend all that money on it. Okay, repairing it, put down new bases, 3-phase, and the 100,000. Even though there might be a few other ideas in your head, the 100,000 worth of land might be worth, say, 250.
Yeah.
But really, and then you get the bright idea. Now, if the company own it, they own land that they've invested in through you, they borrowed off you, and it's now worth 250, and there's no problem with that. Okay.
Okay.
If we go the other way, okay, and don't transfer it in, and you spend that money bringing the value up to 250, okay, and say, Jesus, I'll put a good bit of money in, okay, but and I'm going to give it now to the company or sell it to the company or whatever. You're now beginning that 250 for 10 acres. It's worth a lot more
than what you paid for it, and you're subject to capital gains.
Yeah. Now, it wouldn't just all be capital gains because you could put 80,000 in. Perhaps not all the 80 would qualify as a tax deduction on it. But you're now giving a much more valuable piece to that company. All right. So the thing is, transfer it at a low value. It's like giving a site to your child before the planning is on it. It's a lower value gift. Then it gets planning, it's worth a lot more, and that can trigger issues. But that was the first thing, and there was a second thing related to that, which I encountered one time, where I represented a director, and we won the day. But Jesus, it was a tricky one. He said renting it to the company.
Yeah.
Cheap. Okay. Got a deceased client of mine. Just give you the long-term hassles here, right? A deceased client of mine now, an older man, a great guy. He retired from the business, so he's the Blowick 20 years ahead, all right? And the sons are running the business, doing a great job. And he had left, say the yard and the offices and the shop and all that, and they were going well. The tax man comes in, and he's looking around and he's mad for tax anyway, and he wasn't getting anywhere. But what he discovered is that the father was getting 12,000 a year for the yard, the offices, and all that, and there was no real rent. It was just rental every year, 1,000 a month. It was always that. But the boys had tarmac cabins up, put up walls, CCTV. They were now near a roundabout. There's something, and what was only worth 12,000 a year when the father retired, we'll say, was now worth at least 200,000 a year of a site. Big motorway and all this. And he said, "Well, you guys have enhanced the value of that site. And that's the same as enhancing the wealth of the landlord. And so the site is worth millions now. And you, the tenants, have enriched the landlord. And that's the same as a gift." And he threw a massive tax bill on my client who was retired and living near me and all this. So Jesus. But I got a great consultant and we got out of it. Okay. But they were worried sick. And the accountant for the company was telling the sons to pay it. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, the gun was put to the head, and the accountant was in a lot of trouble up there. And Jesus, the sons in panic. They rang me, and I rang this other consultant, and he did a fantastic job. Oh my God. He went back to the penal laws, how you can't throw a tenant off the land when they make the land better. And you would want to read it now. And we handed it to the taxman, and the taxman said, "I never thought of it that way." And that was,
It depends who the taxman you get. Some can be very, reasonable, and some can be total.
I know, but I mean, you have the accountant saying pay it, because he said it's $1 million if I'm paid on Friday, but if not, the penalties will go to a higher.
Okay.
But anyway, what I'm saying to you is really the early transfer of that, the better, I think. Oh yeah, sorry, I'll just finish off one last question. to you, right? So I know I've spoken over you there, and I don't normally do that, okay? But I just want to draw your attention to this other thing called retirement relief, okay? And there's a few things. There's revised entrepreneur relief. I see I've clicked it recently. But retirement relief is if you're over 55 and you've worked 10 years in a business, and especially if it's a limited company as well, disposal of a business, the value for capital gains tax is reduced by 90%. Okay. So your business, I just valued a business actually two of them the last week around here, and let's say the business was worth 3 million 10 years from now, that business you've built up. And the tax, remember I said to you, the tax bill would be 1/3 of that if you just blunder into it if you're not careful. Now laws change and all that, but effectively this one, disposal of a business or a farm, if you're 55 or older, I know it says you might be able to, but effectively the business is reduced by 90% as far as the tax man is concerned. You still get your 3 million, but he'll only say, well, as far as I'm concerned, you got 300,000. You put a lot more into that, there's no tax. Basically, that's what happens. Okay. And if the business owns everything, you'll get that type of relief. But if you're renting the site, so you're renting the site as Blowick to the company, part of the sale of the business would be literally a straightforward sale, and you'll be jammed. You won't qualify for retirement relief if you're just renting something. That's really what I'm saying.
Okay.
So these are kind of tripwires down the road, yeah.
All right. Okay. So your recommendation is to transfer the what I would call the active site over to the business.
It is, yeah.
And is that just a legal transfer? You know, there's no monies to be paid on top if I do transfer it, is there?
And let me see. It'll depend what it's worth. If it's worth less than 100,000, I think there's no stamp duty. Okay.
Yeah, it is worth less than 100,000 at the moment, I'd say.
I think my understanding is there's no stamp duty on that, right? And if there is, it's
because I've already paid stamp duty on the bloody thing.
I know, yeah, but this could be a small extra payment. You have to pay a solicitor for a start. There's another grand or two gone there.
Well, I don't mind paying that. Like, I mean, I've got a good solicitor, James. All right, he's a really good guy. And he's doing some work for me now at the moment. So, you know, he knows it quite well, and he'd do it in a heartbeat. You know, that kind of. I don't mind the legal fees if it's done right.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me. Okay. What would bother me is to pay the bloody taxman more money after me already paying money on top of it. Okay.
Yeah, well, if it's I'll just write down stamp duty. I'll look into what the stamp duty would be, but I think what you're going to find is, you know, it could be a small extra investment now for what would save you serious stuff down the road.
Okay, so I suppose there's a couple of questions that I have now at the moment. Is one, I'm have to spend this money in the next 6 weeks for the cleanup. It's time sensitive. It might be even sooner than that. It might be 3 weeks. So what's the critical thing? Do I need to register for tax to say I've started trading and then register for VAT? Is that so? Yeah. Could you do that for me?
We could. It's one form called the CT1. I can kind of. Do you want me to show it to you quickly?
Well, no, like I mean, no. I've no interest in forms in that regard, in the sense that I mean, I prefer to get someone who's the guru and get them to do it, okay? Because there's certain things I'm very, very good at, Kevin, and tax and all that kind of stuff is just not my forte. That's why I've got a very good solicitor. I'm looking now for a very, very good accountant, because without the two, well, with the two, if you have two really good people like that, you know, it sells. They pay for themselves in the long run. Okay. And I expect them just to do the work then, if you know what I mean. I'll pay for it and do the work.
Okay, that's fine.
I've seen too many people in business, and from a HR perspective, you know, not letting the people that they work with to do the work and do it right, and they're not the experts, and then they mess it up. So I've learned from that years ago when I've seen, you know, different businesses going pear-shaped. Okay, so yeah, so but in the meantime, I don't have to have the land transferred before I register for tax and VAT. You sure I don't? No. Okay, yeah. Basically, I am getting a company called Higgins or Drahan Limited to do the cleanup of the site and dispose of the waste. Now, you will be surprised at the amount of waste that 32 tunnels will generate.
Wow. Okay.
So we're talking about 20 40-yard skips costing €2,000 a piece, plus the VAT at 20. I think that's at 23%. And then the men and the machine to actually do the full cleanup of the site and dispose of all the waste properly, to put it all into the skips, we're talking about 23,000 plus VAT at 13.5%. So I obviously would love to regain that VAT at some stage, if I'm paying it out now, because that will then, that 14,000 then, or whatever it is, 12,000 will pay for the security fencing to go up around the warehouse, because it's going to be spent again, right? It's not. And then the CCTV camera and the reconnection charge, I think, from ESB for electricity will be between €2,000 to €3,000.
Okay. Well, yeah. Don't feel it going.
Oh no, it'll disappear in a heartbeat, and then I have to repair the warehouse, which will be about another 5 to 10,000.
Right. Okay. Plenty happening there. Do you have a bank account open for the company?
No, I'm going to do that now. All right, because there was no point. I wasn't trading anything, so I'm actually pushing it now, and getting it done. So I haven't that opened, and at this moment in time.
Yeah.
So any advice on that?
Yeah. AIB. Okay. For anyone in the business, they're the best bank. Who is your normal bank?
Well, it's Ulster, but I have to find a new bank now because they're leaving the market. I've been with Ulster for years, and that's where I have all the money. Well, you swear I had lots of money. I don't. I actually don't have lots of money. I have about 100 grand to do this now, to get it up and running.
Okay.
I've already spent the 170. This is kind of my pension pot. All right.
Yeah. That sounds very grand. It sounds very good, so.
Well, it depends. You never know if I can generate the business, because the selling point for me will be cost-effective, high security, long-term storage for businesses. Because it's so remote, it won't be that suitable for Joe Public if they want to visit the site every week. It literally is out in the middle of nowhere. Okay. But for a company who just wants long-term secure storage, and they don't want to think about the stuff again, but they know where it is if they need to access it at much more cost-effective rates you would get in Dublin or you'd get in Galway or whatever, this is my unique selling point. All right, in the sense that, and there is, if you think about it, each footprint for each tunnel is 110 by 30. So technically, you could, if you want to get 30-foot containers, all right, you could get 8 on each platform. All right, and there's 36 platforms. So there's significant room for expansion if it does take off.
Right, very good.
And it has all the infrastructure, in the sense that it has the electricity. It has, it has its own reservoir, about 20,000, I think, liters if water was required. It has its own, so you wouldn't have to even pay water rates, because you wouldn't need drinking water. You just need water for loos and all that kind of stuff. So it has that on site. And I mean, so what my plan is, to start off small, repair the warehouse and maybe get a few containers. All right, fence those off, get proper security, fob access, proper CCTV, and go to market. See if we rent them. If we don't, we don't, and then I can always sell it again. The kind of way.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
but I still won't. I won't have made a huge loss at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, sounds super. Okay.
And then if I can sell off the other acreage for forestry, it may not work. I'll have to get the licenses for forestry. If it does, it increases the value of the land. And Quilch have already said they'll buy it.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so, and that'll actually pay me back for the original money I spent.
Geez, it will. Okay. Yeah, I've always liked to look at forestry. I've never had anyone who actually did it. So.
Well, when you have to look at what's suitable for the area, that the location, because it's about 4 kilometers outside Balmulla town.
Okay.
It's 40 minutes from Ballina, it's an hour from Castlebar, it's over 2 hours from Galway. It's a longer trip from Dublin, but I don't think companies would mind too much if they're getting long-term inexpensive storage.
Okay, that's great. I'm just looking at your online thing here.
What
And
online?
uh,
What
so
online thing?
the company, this one. This is you, is
Oh,
it?
yeah, that's me.
Yeah. So James Cahill, who's that lad?
My solicitor.
Oh, that's him, is it? Okay.
Hmm.
I'm just, you don't know, I'm just, like all clients, we all like to kind of watch out for one thing. There's a thing, this annual, when a company is formed, because just when you said about setting things up there, 6 months after it's set up, we're meant to send in what's called an annual return. And it just,
I haven't done that.
okay, now because we're late, there might be fines on that, okay, of €100 and €3 a day. So now James might
Really?
have some excuse, yeah.
Oh,
It's meant to go in within 28 days of this date.
and
That's
even if it's not trading.
even if it's not trading, yeah,
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. So,
yeah.
well,
So
would you do the honors there?
let me see, do I need now James or you will have to, yeah, we can do it and all like that. I'm just wondering when James have an excuse to get it. Now we're good at excuses, but we'll see if we can get off over COVID. But if we can't,
Actually,
they
that's
just
great.
there'll be a
That
figure. Yeah.
that would be a great idea because of COVID. Yeah, couldn't get to my solicitor who's in Dublin.
Yeah. So we'll
I know.
see. I mean, they're not. There is a. I'll see if because we just started off, we'll try it. But they're not as sympathetic as they used to be at all. But just be braced for. Let me see. August, September, October. What's that? November, December, January, February, March, April. November, December, January, February, March, April. 6, 12, 18. It could be about 500 quid worth of.
Well, look at it. If it is, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing I do, I always pay minimum tax if I possibly can, but I always pay it. Whatever. I don't mess around with the tax man.
Okay. And you own 100% of the shares, Andy?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll do this. You'll find you might get a good few emails from us. One will be give us a copy, hopefully, okay, of your ID, proof of address,
Sure.
where you get the company set up, company bank account, the number. I'll send an email to James Cahill to just introduce myself. I'll make you aware of potential fees as well. So
Yeah, I
you
was
know.
going to say, yeah, send me on what your fee structure is and how that works.
Yeah, and how it works, long term, right? And your sister's great at the QuickBooks. So we love that program. And she did a lot on her plate there. But the more online you are, the annual fees are less. All right. So like we want all our clients, we have 5 grades, and grade 1 and 2 is where we want everyone to be, which
Okay.
is everything's online, easy to mind them and all that type of thing. And if you go below that, our annual fees go up because we've just got to do more to get them in place. That's all. So anyone who's kind of paperish or anything like that, we really encourage them, financially encourage them to go up the line. And
Well, Mary will be doing all the books for us.
yeah, so she'll know all that, and she's a big fan of it. Another thing is most of our signing is online anyway. So we email you a form and you can either tap it or sign with your finger and we get it. Apart from that form that has to go to that crowd, the rest of them can all be e-signed. So I've just given you kind of a preview and we'll come back to that again. But
Okay, so my action is to go and open a bank account now. All
yeah,
right, get that done. So I'll do that in the next, hopefully Monday. I'll pop into AIB, all right, and see if I can open up one. I'm sure I can. I'll bring the registration papers and my ID and all the usual bits and bobs that you need. So I'll get that done and send it on to them. You're going to chat to James.
where is he based actually?
He's in Dublin. He's actually changed company, so his name he's now James Cahill and Associates.
Oh, is he? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
I'll track him down. So
yeah. And I can send you his details. Let me just see if I have them here on email. I'll send you on his details anyhow because it's James Cahill and Associates. He said he was working with Thomas Montgomery and Sons out in Dunleary. I used to live in Dunleary. That's where I got to know him, and he set up his own business there at the beginning of the year.
Okay, super. Yeah.
Yeah. And and I found him to be a very efficient, very good solicitor.
Great. Hard fun.
They are actually, and that's why I'm sticking with them. I'm in Mayo. I don't know where are you based, Kevin?
Clifton.
Clifton. All right, so you're in Galway, my sister's in Dublin. But isn't it great? Isn't it great that we can actually work that way?
I know. Well, I'm going to Dublin this evening actually, follow the Connacht match, and so we're up in Dublin every now and again. But loads of clients up there. I do call on them and everything like that, but I'm not calling on them tonight.
No, it's more pleasure. But yeah, so it's James Cahill and Associates. You'll find him.
Okay.
He's new. I'll give you. Let me see. I can give you his email now if you're interested.
Sure.
Let me just look it up, James, because I'm going to have some expenses with him. But then it'll go through the business. We had a chap that was in to do the cleanup, Kevin,
Okay.
and basically he walked off, and he took all the valuables, the metal and the tunnels and that, and he left all the rubbish.
Jesus.
So myself and James will be seeing him in court.
Oh my God.
Hmm?
Who was that guy? Was he
Oh,
no?
he was a shyster from Cork. So that's why it's time sensitive, because I had the environmental people out to me.
Yeah.
And they're okay. They're giving me 6 weeks to tidy up, but I don't want to be spending all the VAT. James Cahill. Why isn't it doing a lookup for me?
Well, I'll track him down anyway. There's no problem. Yeah.
I should have. Hold on, I'm sure I had an email from him there. I'm looking on my phone, you see. Drives me nuts.
James Cahill solicitor. I see you jumping up here actually. James. There's one actually in Castlebar. That's not him.
Oh, I know. No, it's definitely not him.
Not him anyway.
Hold on, no, I'll get it for you because I want to get it for myself. Search older me emails. Here we go.
Oh yeah, he was in Thomas Montgomery. He's on LinkedIn here. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's him. I think it's J Cahill at cahillassociates.ie.
Okay. Yeah, I see him here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that. So let me just see. I'll just get it here. James Cahill. James Cahill. Okay. Here we go. I found it. Okay, so it's J Cahill at cahillsolicitors.ie. And his address is 21 Windsor Place, Dublin, D02 EH57, and his phone is 016624454.
Okay, great.
Okay, and that, so no, so you can reach out to him. And
Yeah, I'll introduce yourself and give him my credentials so he
brilliant,
knows what's
brilliant.
about.
Yeah, no, as I said, I found him to be, because I've had one or two not great solicitors in the past. So, when I get someone that's good at what they do, I kind of stick with them. But yeah, so that's going to be happening. So all legal fees with regard to that situation will be going through the company as well.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So
that'll probably take a year to go through the, I think it's going to the circuit.
Right. Okay.
Because of the costs.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be the high. There's a threshold for different amounts of money.
There is.
I don't think. Is it? Does the circuit up to 5? I don't know. Look at anyhow.
I know there's a threshold in.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting exercise to see how it actually works, because it was although the agreement was done on WhatsApp, all right, at the time it was exceptionally clear, there was no ambiguity whatsoever.
Right.
And we gave him a get out of jail clause. We said just return return what you've taken, and we'll do the cleanup, and he wouldn't.
Jeez.
Yeah, you're kind of looking at him and you're kind of saying, seriously, you're running a business down in Cork, and this is what you've done. He overestimated the cost of getting rid of refuse.
Jesus.
And then he says, well, I'm not going to make any money. And I says, well, that wasn't we didn't ask you to do it. He volunteered to do it.
He took all the valuable stuff and left a mess. Yeah.
Yeah, because he took about 100 ton of metal and sent it to
yeah.
Not to worry. I don't get too excited about these things. They'll all balance themselves. It's just an inconvenience.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, well, look at, what can you do? You know, I can't actually go down and hold a shotgun to his head and make him come back. I've asked him, I told him, I said, I don't want to go legal. And he's the one that sent me his solicitor's details. So I said, okay.
Jesus. Okay.
Yeah. As you can see, I don't know, but I'm not into kind of scrapping with people, Kevin. It's
I
not my
know.
style.
Yeah. Wait,
It's
it's
not,
a killer. Yeah.
sorry.
It's a killer on time. Yeah, and distraction. Yeah.
It's a distraction, and it's just, I prefer to come to an amicable arrangement like we've done down through the years. If we're terminating people, come to a mutual agreement. It's much easier for everyone. But anyhow, okay, so will you get me registered for, so I will get the bank account opened, and then will you start doing the registration for tax and VAT and all that wonderful stuff?
Yeah, we will. We'll email it to you eventually. It'll be early next week. I'm thinking now anyway, but I'll follow up with a memo on this. Okay.
And I mean, the business that I'm going into, it is a service, really, isn't it? So it can be registered for VAT. Isn't there some?
Oh yeah, can, yeah. There's no problem registering for VAT. It is vatable, yeah.
Okay. And then how do you get your VAT back then? So I pay this franc, whatever, you know, the VAT, the money plus VAT. And then when do you do VAT returns?
Every 2 months. Well, we have a bit of a choice. Every 2 months, every 3 months, every 6, or every 12.
Okay.
So probably every 2 at the start.
At the start, yeah.
So your sales VAT will be 0, and your purchase VAT will be whatever is on those receipts. And the more receipts you keep, the more money you get back, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, super. And then we'll have to, as you said, figure out some class of sale, you know, to make it viable. So you let me know what I need to do for that. I will get Anthony to store some machinery down there. I have no issue, and I'll invoice him. I'll invoice his company.
Yeah, just to have a sale there, and that's just reinforces our trading position, you know, just in case we're held up over something for 2 years and the VAT man says, well, you didn't actually trade, I want it back. And this does go on, this type of thing.
Yeah.
You know? So,
well, that's fantastic advice. So thank you so much. It was great. It was great to chat to you. I know you have 2 minutes. You probably have another call in 2 minutes. So it'll it's just a habit of, because I've lived on calls for the last 2 years. I work for Kellogg's, just to let you know.
right.
I work in HR, so I'm out at that. I'm in Dublin once a week at the Dublin airport, you know, but we've lived on Zoom calls and it's literally, you want 2 minutes even just to take a 2-minute break between calls. So I shall leave you to it.
Okay, that's great, Han.
So you'll get back to me.
Yes, I will. Yeah.
All right.
You'll get emails gradually over the weekend and early next week. But forms, procedural stuff, you'll be CC'd on my stuff to James, and so a week from now, a lot should have happened, you know. So okay.
Super. Listen, thank you so much, Kevin. Take care.
That's great, Dan. Great meeting you.
Bye.
Bye for now.